G'day and welcome back to RC Model Reviews. Today I'm looking at, what am I looking at? Oh, this, the Jumper T16. Now I did have a quick look once before because Jumper sent me this. This was the original with the module in the back, and it had a few issues. The SD card and so forth was a bit dodgy, but it was a pre-release version. I didn't realize that at the time. But they then sent me this, and this is the Pro with the Hall effect sticks, and the RF board is inside, so in the back here you just got an empty module bay. There's nothing there. It's just, woohoo, how's that? And I've been using this. This review's taken a bit of time because I've been using this for a few weeks now. And I did mention that I'd had a bit of a guts full of FrSky and their shenanigans, their desire to feather their own bottom line rather than look after customers. I'm not the only one. Quite a few people have said that. And so I have been looking for a new transmitter to replace my 9XD. And also my QX7. So naturally, first choice would be something with OpenTX. It has OpenTX. This has OpenTX, so that's great. And so I thought I'd give it a go. And I got to say, I'm largely pleased. This will become my transmitter of choice. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it's not a FrSky. No, that's not the main reason. Interesting observation. Now, there's... I think it's Grayson Hobbies put up a video showing, you need to tune to the fine tuning of the frequency to get best range with FrSky receivers. And I'm wondering if that perhaps is another move by FrSky to try and put people off using off-brand transmitters with their receivers. I don't know. But I did a test. I took the Zod Nano Talon, and I fitted it with the Zod Copilot. Reviews coming up. And flew it. And I flew it off into the distance to the limits of visual line of sight. I used the same receiver both times. Once I bound it to my QX7S, and the other time I bound it to this. I am very pleased to say I got noticeably more range with this than with my QX7S. Now my QX7S isn't short on range. It's fine. It goes happily out to nearly 2 kilometers, which is not quite the limits of my visual line of sight. But this went further. So, I'm happy. It's that little bit of extra headroom. It's not necessary, but it just gives you that, you feel comfortable. So, yeah, from that point of view, this seems to work pretty damn well on the FrSky settings. And remember, it's multi-protocol. So you can bind this to your Spectrum, your, I don't know, or your tiny little Chinese flyaway toys, and your, what else is there? It's got other stuff, FrSky, FlySky. It didn't bind to the OMP planes, which was unfortunate. I wished it had. And it doesn't bind, I don't think, to the high-tech. I've got a lot of high-tech stuff here. It doesn't bind to the high-tech. Oh, bum. Maybe it does. Actually, the old one didn't. I haven't checked the new one. Hopefully it will, because they use the Texas Instrument chipset. So it's just a firmware reason if it doesn't bind. It'd be good if it did, because I've got a lot of models which got high-tech receivers, and I'd love to use this transmitter. So yeah, it's got the Hall effect sticks. They feel quite nice. For my liking. Now I'm going to get into personal preferences here. This probably, I'm a bit different to most people. You may have noticed. I've got more facial hair than most women. And my preferences are obviously somewhat subjective. First of all, I like really light sticks. I like my sticks to be so light that if I sneeze on them, they'll go right to the end of the limit. It helps with the Parkinson's. I have to say, the less force I have to use, the less likely I am to have a tremor when I'm moving the stick. So I like them really lightened up. I've got them as light as I can get them, and they're still a bit stiff for me, still a bit much spring pressure. So yeah, I'll live with it. The other thing which I was not quite impressed with was these sliders on the side. No, the center detent is just, well, I can't feel it. It's like, yeah, you can slightly, but if you're going to use these for crow braking or something like that, you want a pretty firm center detent. So when you've got your flaps in the center position and your spoilers in the center position, they are there. They're there. They're not a little bit up or a little bit down. You want a really rigid, really firm center position. This doesn't do that, which is unfortunate. But mind you, having said that, the original 9XD had the same problem. Well, this is actually better. Yep, I can definitely feel the center position on these. I cannot feel it on that. What about the other one they sent me? Is the old one any better? No, it's the same. They need to have, for me, I think they need to have a firmer detent in the slider positions. And also the sliders don't move far. There's not a lot of movement, so you can't do very precise movement with the sliders. With the 9XD, for example, it is a rotating thing, so you've got quite a bit of movement. And here it's sort of just pokes out the side. You don't have quite so much movement. But yeah, as I say, who cares? Hey-ho. The other thing, which is probably, for me, I'm going to say for me, the most disappointing element of the Jumper is the screen. Now, most people will go, "Yo, what are you talking about? It's a fantastic color screen. It makes it so easy setting the model up." But I'm not a fan of color screens, I have to say. I really aren't. I told my Patreon supporters, if they made this transmitter with a monochrome screen, like the 9XD or the QX7, whatever, even if it cost extra, I'd go for the monochrome screen. Why? Why would I go for the boring old monochrome screen? Well, because most of the time I'm playing with my transmitter, it's in the sun, it's outdoors in full sunlight, and it doesn't matter how good you make a color screen, you got to peer and shade it and whatever. It's just not bright enough to actually use easily in full sunlight. And that, to me, is a really important issue. I really want to be able to use, like when I'm outside, I want to change models. I want to be able to see easily what models are there, click on the right thing. If I want to do something like make a small alteration to a setup, don't want to have to be finding a piece of shade to do it, or, color like this. No, I don't care about color. I mean, color, it's fluff. Honestly, it's fluff. If you can't use a monochrome screen, well, then you shouldn't be flying model aircraft. But that, again, as I say, I mentioned this to my Patreon supporters, and some of them said, no, we love the color screen. So if you like color, you'll love the Jumper T16 because it has color. Fantastic. Otherwise, the only other thing I noticed that was a little bit dodgy was which of these levers is the trim for the elevator and the throttle? I mean, you got two. It's not intuitive which one of these little clicky things here actually alters the trim. And because it could be this one, because this is beside the thing, or it could be that one, because that's beside the. No, it's just, sorry. The 9XD, it makes it very simple to choose which is the trim lever. So when I was flying the Nano Talon trying to trim it out, nothing was happening because I was using the wrong trim lever. I forget which one I was using, probably this one. And it just says T5, T3. It doesn't even say on the writing which is the trim and which is not. Maybe you can configure it. Knowing OpenTX, you probably can. But it was just like, why? Why do that? Why do we even need these little dicky things here? Why don't we just have trims? I don't need that extra lever. But no one else seems to have grizzled about that. So it's just me, isn't it? I'm just a grizzler. Yeah, there you go. Now I put two. I like the 18650 cells for the battery, although you need to put some padding. The holder is loose in the thing. Little thing, it's annoying, but I'll fix that. That's not a deal breaker. So yeah, there is some problems apparently if using 433. There's no RF shielding on the back of the case. Apparently there's a 433 long range radio gear can mess with your jumper. If you don't use 433, you don't care, do you? And if you use CrossFire or the hideous FrSky R9 system, you probably don't care either because it's not going to be an issue with those. But that's something to bear in mind. And I think, who was it? Was it Painless 360 did metallise the back and solved the problem or something. So there are videos online if you want to use 433 with your Jumper TX, you'll be able to see how to do that pretty simply. I like the rubberized grips on the side. That's kind of plush. It's kind of nice. And nothing else, no other grizzles. It's a kick-ass radio. It's a kick-ass radio. I love it. It's bloody brilliant. Fantastic. So yes, this will be my radio of choice. You will see me flying with my QX7 and my 9XD because I've got models on there. I'm not going to transfer en masse all my models over to this, but as I add new models, they will be going on this. And I had to change to mode 1 because I'm a mode 1 flyer. That was pretty straightforward. They even give you the bits in the box. How good is that? Yeah, that's it. So comments, please. And this leaves me now with a bit of a dilemma. What am I going to use for receivers now? Because I'm not stuck. I don't have to use any specific receivers. I can use a DSMX receiver if I feel so inclined. I can use a FlySky receiver. I can use FrSky receivers. The world is my oyster. So I'm going to just see whatever's cheap on the day and use that. Yay! And of course, I'll CrossFire in the back. There you go. So if you've got comments, questions, anything you'd like to add to this, because I'm one point of view. I suppose before we go, I should show you what's inside. I did, when I changed the sticks over, had a poke around inside, and here's what I found. Okay, let's lift the skirt on this baby. See what's inside. It's really nicely built. It's a very good build quality. The multi-protocol module here is internal now, so that's great because on the first one of these I got, it was actually an external module that plugged in the module bay, which seemed kind of silly. But obviously they were heading that way because they even had the little hole at the top for the antenna. So yeah, we've got a great big ARM-F4 processor there, lots and lots of memory, lots of processing power, so that's going to be more than enough to cope with OpenTX. We've already seen OpenTX runs really well on the ARM processor. The stick units, these are Hall effect stick units. Springs are a little heavy for my liking. I've got them wound right back, which is, I like my sticks much lighter than most people. I don't know why. Perhaps it's because I don't shake so much when don't have to pull against a spring. Who knows? yeah, these days there's really not a lot. It's nice to see that the switches and everything here. Let's just pull in a bit. I want to show you this. It's quite important. A lot of radios, they wire the wires directly to the switch contacts, which means you've got a point of failure where the wires connect. There's little circuit boards on each of these things. We've got the little slider here, runs onto a little circuit board, and we've got the switch there, runs onto a circuit board. All these circuit boards here connect to the main board through these little flat flex ribbon cables, and flat flex ribbon cables are pretty reliable when they're in a static environment like this, not being moved around. I know that the RunCam camera, I was not a fan of using a flat flex on the split cameras, because if you expose them to a lot of movement, they can cause problems. But inside a transmitter where they're just going to sit quietly all day and not get any movement, they're perfectly fine. In fact, they're a really good option. And this should be more reliable than having that thing hardwired with heat shrink. And of course, that brings the price down. If you can do it like this, it actually ends up being quite a bit cheaper. So yeah, not a lot to see here. It's pretty good, pretty standard. There's the little Hall effect sensor, this little black device here, little black thing there with 3 legs. That's the Hall effect sensor. This is actually the bit that's turning here. It's just a magnet, and that's how Hall effect works. We have the magnet passes in front of the Hall effect, which changes the output from the Hall effect device. So nothing touches. They're moving parts, but there is no wiper running across a carbon track to wear out, which is what has happened with my original Tyrannus. It's all worn out. So I had to convert this from mode 1 to mode 2. That was a bit of an interesting situation. But it is, relatively easy to work on. I managed to get all the bits and pieces out I needed, put it back together, and hey ho, absolutely fine. So there you go. And there's that multi-protocol module. That's all inside a big tin container so as to meet emission requirements. Obviously these things are shielded so that they don't emit radiation on the frequencies you don't want. And up there we have the USB connection and the jack, the little 3.5mm jack, and the antenna connection, which is for the purpose of the thing. It's an SMA connector, not an RP SMA. Down the bottom we have the where is it on this oops, get this in the right place. On this other daughter board here, we have the micro SD card and the battery connector, which basically just goes off to the main board. And down there, the little vibration feedback, just a motor with an eccentric weight. That's all they use for making the thing shake and rattle when you need to be alerted to something. So that's what you get inside. Really nice quality of build. I'm rather happy with that. So there you go. It's a recommended buy. I love it when I have products that I can recommend. Over the years, I've had so many really crap products. It's nice to be able to say, this is a product I can recommend with confidence. I haven't had any problems. Of course, bear in mind, I've only been using it for a few weeks. If there is some long-term issues, who knows? But I will keep you informed. If there are some things that happen with this that you should know about, you'll find out here. And of course, a lot of people are buying these now, so you'll find out all over the interwebs, all over the tube of views. But I think, yeah, I wouldn't buy another FrSky transmitter, honestly. I'd buy one of these. Ergonomically, it's pretty big. It's pretty, but hey, bottom line is it just works. And I love the things that just work. Those are the really good things, the things that just work. And there's no deal breakers. There you go. Thanks for watching. As I say, your comments, do the comments. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, I'm gutted. I shan't sleep tonight knowing that you didn't like the video. Anyway, that's it. Thanks to my Patreon supporters. No mid-rolls. Yes. No mid-rolls. Thanks to my Patreon supporters. And more videos coming up before Christmas. If there's anything you'd particularly like to see, bung it in the comments. I'll see if I can get a video out for you before Santa comes. Oh, I said Santa. Now kids will watch my video and I'll get a $43,000 fine. Watch my Exit channel for news on that. Okay, bye for now.